to the Public Safety Committee meeting for September. We're glad to have each and every one of you here this evening and have your presence here as we go through numerous things. We have a pretty long agenda I see here tonight, several things to discuss. Before we get into that agenda, first item on that, we're going to go into that right now, is approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Do I have a motion for that approval?
Chairman, I've reviewed the minutes of the last meeting, find that they're appropriate and correct, and asked for it to be accepted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do I have a second? Second. We have a second from Commissioner Gurley. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. I'm going to at this time call on our mayor to make an introduction. Sure.
I have two tonight.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, we have two. First, I'd like to introduce Rachel Layhew. Rachel is replaced Vicki downstairs in our office, so she'll be working directly with me in the mayor's office, and she is your new person, the go-to person in the mayor's office, so she'll be working with and for each one of you, all 21 commissioners. We went through an exhaustive search trying to find somebody qualified, and it was tough. We went through 59 applications and came up with Rachel. We went next door and stole her from Ted Beatty, so. But she comes with 10 years already with county experience working next door in the trustee's office. Ted was gracious enough to let her come, and because it was an advancement for her, and he was quite the gentleman to, which all of us should be. Anytime one of our employees want to better themselves, we should back them 100%, and we're just glad that Rachel, she's caught on. She's very smooth, even keeled, and I'm sure as you get to know her, you'll enjoy working with her as well. Second person I'd like to introduce is sitting over my left shoulder, and that is Ashley McDonald. Ashley, this is her first day. She is our new public information officer. She would have started last week, but she had already made a commitment to go to Emmitsburg, Maryland, with our public safety director, and the two of them went up there. And of course, Ashley went through a school, and so now she has graduated from that school, which is kind of like an advanced learning degree, but she has a master's. So it's an MPIO, Master's Public Information Officer. So we're so glad, and she's also incoming national president.
I was sworn in August.
She's the incoming national president of the Public Information Officers Association. So it was quite a find for us for her to come on board. She'll be doing two roles. And it's a lofty goal, but the commission supported it. She'll be working with all of our first responders, all of our emergency management organizations, with Kevin, with Carl, Director Hudgens. I started calling Cuz, but I'm not going to do that. Got in trouble last time. Everybody thought I hired my cousin. So she'll be working with Chief Farley and also EMA through Kevin. The rest of the time when we're not having emergencies and she is the one voice, she'll be the one voice for Rutherford County and working with all the news medias and press releases, etc. The rest of the time she's going to be working on our solid waste issues, trying to help us change the culture of our county of how we recycle. She'll be calling on schools, going in talking to kids. She'll be talking to all the businesses and corporations about how do we, as Rutherford County, achieve that goal as being the first zero waste county in the state of Tennessee, which is a lofty goal, but we feel like that we can do that. And so she comes to us from the city of Murfreesboro. She was the PIO for the city of Murfreesboro Fire Department and Rescue. So she has a lot of experience, and we're just tickled to death to have Ashley on board, as well as Rachel. So two new folks come to work for the county, and we're just pleased to tickle for both of you. Thank you.
We're gonna sneak out before my security detail takes over your meeting.
Well, Ashley and Rachel, we're so glad to have you with us this evening and appreciate you being, to take on these responsibilities with the county. And we're looking forward to working with both of you. And Becky, I see you retired, what, 8.5 years ago?
8.5 years
And you're
ago.
still, so we're finally going to let you
Still
do
showing
that?
up.
So,
I will stop showing up.
Oh, you will stop
I will
showing
stop.
So just work with, she's going to solo, Becky's going to work through our committees at first with Rachel, but go easy with her until she gets to know everybody's name. So just say, if she doesn't remember your name, Mr. Chairman, if you will, I'll ask each chairman to do that. Say, Commissioner Phillips made the motion, seconded by Commissioner P, et cetera. So we'll help her make sure her minutes are correct.
Okay, we'll
Thank
try
you.
our best, because sometimes I'll look at somebody and I have to sit there and think, you know, now who is that? Just give me time.
Who made the motion, Ray?
I'm sort of like an old computer. I have total recall, just not instant at times. Okay, we'll move right on into our agenda. At this time, we're going to have some discussion concerning the Motorola communications. I think this is going to become a natural part of our agenda until we have that up and going at this time. So I believe we've got some reports on that. Peter, do we have anything to report on that, or?
You want to do the bullets on that, or
Sure.
Kevin?
can, either one?
All right, just some quick high levels, and then Peter is down in the weeds of it, so I can give you the bullet
Okay.
points here. So the status of where we're at on the radio system is the subscribers or the radios and the components and stuff have been ordered. We do have a change order involving the sheriff's office equipment, and that's in the process. The infrastructure of the equipment has been ordered as well. They've conducted the microwave walkthroughs of the tower sites. They have started, and this is Peter's leading this up as well, the process of the channel mapping. So that's basically where the radio channels will be on all the different zones, and it's quite a complicated process with as much as we have in our system here. So they've started working on that. The governance pieces, the policies, how we operate amongst ourselves and the processes and everything, that's in the beginning phases of drafting those policies. Project manager has been assigned for the structural components, so as they identify any issues that need to be changed out or beefed up or whatever else, they'll handle that. And then they've also have filed for the FCC licensing for the new frequencies and everything. So lots of stuff going on with that. They've been out on sites and tours and stuff on a pretty consistent basis, and that's involved pretty much about everyone in the office from one point or another. So if you any details, Peter's the man for that. But
Any questions anyone might have at this point, or?
The problems that were discussed last time we were talking was that some of the radios that the sheriff had requested, evidently there was a problem there. Has that been resolved? Or?
we met, and I think we've come to the solution for that. So that's why theirs are in the process of the change order to have that taken care of.
All right.
So, yeah, we're good. Okay.
Yeah. I sat in on that one where that was discussed. And, I think that was taken care of. Motorola come in with some things that we could do to fix that, so. Anything else? If not, I think, I appreciate that update. All right, we'll begin with OSHA. Glad to have you back.
Good evening. Thank you. Sorry I've been out, had some family issues, but hopefully those are all been taken care of now. So I'd like to report in the month of August, we had a total of 26 injuries, as you can see there. That brings the total for the year to date to 169. As you can see there on the right-hand side of your report, 121 of them are OSHA recordable, 54 had restricted days, and 25 lost time days. Next page there, you'll look to see where we are this year. We're exactly the same place we were last year as far as the number of claims. However, we're up a little bit, of course, from where we were 2 years ago. Of course, we've added a couple of schools since then, have about 300 or 400 more people in the county than we had a couple of years ago. As far as the incurred dollars, mentioned last month, in the month of July, unfortunately, we didn't have any reports. We were just changing over from our TPAs from CCMSI to Collins and Company, so Collins Company didn't get a chance to pay any bills in the month of July. That's the first month that they were actually out there paying bills and getting the claims together and assigning the incurred dollars and all. So in August, you'll see what we have there, what it looks like. So compared to this year to the 2 previous years, this time this year we've got $343,000 incurred dollars compared to the same time last year of $342,000. So going pretty much along again, same place we were last year at this time, and yet we're less than what we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago at $415,000. Just to kind of give you a quick recap of where the injuries were in the county, the last page of your report there, you'll see we broke them down by the Board of Education, the County General, and the Highway. Most of the injuries were in the Board of Education in the month of August, and August is the first month that the Board of Education was back in session. Schools are opened up, the students are back. They had 22 of the injuries in the month of August. The county had 4, and the Highway Department had none. The biggest jump, of course, if you look at that, is struck and injured by. A lot of that happens, the students are out of classes for 3 months, they come back into classes, they're coming back into a structured environment where before they've been allowed to kind of be at home. I'm not saying do as they wish, but of course it's not as structured as it is when they come back to school, and so a lot of things happen when they come back to school, and students are, you've got to kind of, I guess, get them back into the classroom environment. That's all I have right now.
Are you saying these employees were struck or injured by a student?
And a lot part of that, yes, sir. Students striking out, striking in, or throwing things and hitting the teachers with something or something like that.
Now, some of the schools taking care of discipline. What about compensation? Is that something that the county looks at?
When you say compensation, of course, these are work-related injuries. Anybody goes to a facility for medical treatment, that's all paid for, taken care of. Any prescriptions are taken care of, so the employee is not out anything for that.
Well, if we have a missed time where there's an assault on a teacher, which is what you're making this sound like, I think that the county may need to be talking to their parents and about some compensation if we're losing money and
Oh, I
time.
see what you're talking about like that.
If you're saying it's, I mean, what you're making it sound to me is an assault. Sounds like that's what it is, so.
Maybe, sir. Again, that's probably a little bit above my area that we need to address that with the parents or something. Again, it's difficult in some of those cases to go back to the parents on students that are underage and be able to address that with them. So
It might be something you can speak to our county attorney about, and the attorney with the Board of Education.
okay, I'll bring that up. Yes, sir.
Do you have an age range?
I beg your pardon?
An age range by chance?
Age?
Age range of the offenders?
It happens in all of the schools. I mean, it's far from elementary school up to the high schools, special ed students, regular students, students coming back in, you know, again. Some of the students are just kind of...
I mean, I agree with Commissioner P there. Is if that's, you know, I'll be honest with you, I've not heard of this happening that much like it.
Well, I mean,
that, you know,
yeah, some of your special
special needs are,
kids or
yeah.
some special needs, I can
That's different.
understand. Now, that's different, but if you've got an older student that's in high school, and, you know, they decide to heave a brick towards somebody, I mean,
Well, we do have the SROs in the school to handle some of the issues that do come up in the schools on that, and they are taking appropriate actions.
Dan, is there an accident investigation done in each one of those?
We're trying to move more accident investigation. I'm kind of landlocked into the office for a lot of things and depend upon the schools doing the investigation, but the school principals and the SRO are doing investigations on those accidents, or those injuries, yes. They're required to provide a report on all of them.
We've had this conversation a number of times, and I'm going to bring it up again, and any work-related accident that fits under two different sections. One is an unsafe act, and one is an unsafe condition. And someone getting hurt by someone else is not an unsafe condition, it's an unsafe act. And every company that I know of, there are consequences for committing an unsafe act. And that's what it sounds like to me. And I think that's what Robert is saying, is that there should be consequences when someone commits an unsafe or is injured by an unsafe act. And it just, to me, everything that I've ever been taught, it just goes against everything that I've ever been taught, not to act, and for there not to be consequences when someone commits an unsafe act. That, anyway, long story short is that I think if we're doing accident investigations, they should be followed up on.
if you don't mind, I'd like to see the reports from the schools on these. I mean, if there's, other than, the special needs type students, and that's understandable with some of the others.
All of these, do you know how many there were, Dan, as it relates to these unsafe acts? Was there 22 of them? Is that what there was?
No,
There's 10.
there was 10 struck or injured by. Now, I'm not,
Okay.
I can't sit here and say that all 10 of them were strictly directed by the students or anything, but there are some in that 10, yes.
Okay. Let me throw this out there to you guys. There's a health and education meeting tomorrow night, and we should get the school board to respond to some of this, so I'll absolutely positively see that happens tomorrow night.
That would be the thing, is obviously, the school has the discipline of a lot of that under that I don't have control over, so.
And what I'd like to see you do is to call the school board and tell them that those questions are coming tomorrow night and be prepared to answer them.
Okay, sir.
And I guess too, you're not at liberty to give out that information of how those accidents happened anyway.
HIPAA law prevents us from going into too much detail,
That's what I was thinking.
because if I go into too much detail, then it would disclose the person's name or the incident, and somebody can then take stuff away from that. And so we have to at least protect the individual's identity in that.
So I would say where you're talking about that you get our information through the school board and where it's coming from there.
I just would like a response as to what they're doing about those type of situations. Let me just reverse that. And if a teacher were to hurt a student, okay, there'd be consequences. And I just think that the reverse needs to happen. At least an accident investigation should happen, and there be some consequences because of an unsafe act that might have been committed.
I can honestly say that a few months ago that the director of school's office contacted my office requesting information over the last couple of years about this very thing that we talked about. And I was asked to give up numbers and figures and locations being names of schools and things like that, where things like this was going on. Now, I'm just telling you that I know that they're looking at it, is what I'm trying to say.
We also have a sheriff's office report that comes on, and the SORs fit under those guys, so whoever's coming up here for that may need to be prepared to answer some questions later on tonight because of that, if you can. What are the SROs doing about a situation like that, okay?
Commissioner Rather?
Doesn't, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, the school system, the school board has a public safety person, director, David Krim.
They do have a person over there, yes, sir. They have a department over there.
He might be the guy. He was an SRO, and then he was hired by the school board, and I think his title is public safety, something for the school system.
Is that the person that's doing the accident investigations? Do you
I don't
know?
know. He just, to me, that would be certainly the person that would know about this and handle things like this, I would think. I can ask him, he lives across the street from me.
The only way, the only reason I'm going on about this is the only way to improve a safety program is to do accident investigations and to follow up on it to try to prevent that unsafe act from happening again. That's the only reason. If we don't do anything about it, the same thing can happen next month or especially next year.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, are there other questions? So we'll find out all that information there, move from that direction. Okay, no further questions. Do I have a motion to accept this report?
Motion to accept the report.
Commissioner Peete? Second. Commissioner Gurley? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Recovery Court report. Commissioner Irwin.
The first report will be probation. We'll start down at the total revenues received was $26,544.72. Probation and recovery services expenditures were $124,579.35. That's for a deficit of $98,034.63. Probation and recovery services payment agreements for August was $14,516.50. People who failed to enter a payment agreement was $22,193. Probation recovery services entered for the month, for the year of 2020 so far has been $37,744.75, and people who failed to enter a payment agreement with the clerk was $50,187.50. You want to go on into recovery court?
Or before you go to recovery, let's just say, anyone have any questions over this financial report that's been given?
Let me ask one question. I don't drag on tonight. When it failed to enter into the EPA with the clerk's office, is there any particular reason?
They walk out the door, their attorney doesn't take them to the clerk's office, and, the way the, pending litigation is right now, it's really tough to force them to pay, so there has to be a better system in place, and we're looking at that, because once they leave courtroom, if they are not hand walk down to the clerk's office, they just walk out the door without paying.
Who would be responsible for doing that?
Well, I imagine we would probably have to hire somebody or get somebody from the probation department, station them right outside the courtroom and walk them from the courtroom with their attorney down to the clerk's office and have them enter an agreement.
Is there a lien placed against these folks, or is that something we can do?
When they fill out the paperwork at Melissa's office, they can civilly garnish their wages if they don't, pay their fees. But we can't hold that over their heads in probation, like, you won't be able to get off probation until you pay your fees. That's not.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that, but
Yeah,
I'm just curious. I mean, it looks like
There's just been some
these
problems in the
costs.
past, and I can't go really into it right now, but, with some pending litigation, that we just have to be careful on how we approach, how we're going to get the money. And,
Yeah, I'm aware of some of the suits that we've had.
we've basically got our hands tied right now, and, maybe down the road, we can find a better solution. But right now, unless you have somebody up there, which takes staff and money, it's hard to do, because the other people located at the courthouse are doing probation for attorneys. We have usually 50 to 55 a day go through there, so it's pretty tough.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Director Irvin, isn't there a temporary stay by Federal Circuit Judge Trauberg, stating that there was a state law that we could encumber their driver's license if they didn't pay their fines, and I think she put a stay, issued a stay on the states doing that.
I think it's come back around.
And so when she said that, because she said that these people need a way to get to work so they can make their money to pay the fines. And so we've seen our numbers continue, in the court clerk's office, those numbers continue to tank. There's no real teeth anymore to make them pay the fines, and word's gotten out. Hey, you don't have to go downstairs, just go on home. That's what's happening to us.
You can go to court and say you're indigent, and just fill out a couple of forms. And
Even though they might belong to the country club, and there's,
But they're not even doing that, are they?
no.
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah, there's still doing that. I mean, we don't do it, but they can. We have a sign up in our probation department, and it hangs, and they can take a form, fill it out, and then go before the judge, and just say they're
I'm talking about this 50,000. Is that included? That somebody who said they're indigent?
No, those are just people who just walk out the door and didn't pay.
Can the judge enter a directive, go down and do this?
Well, I guess the judge can pretty much do anything he wanted to do, but right now, like I said, with the litigation, and they've got our hands tied as far as what we can and can't say to them, because we can't hold the money over their heads, and we can't not let them get off probation because of it. So if they sign an agreement coming into it, then if they don't pay when they get off probation, it turns into a civil matter, and they'll do whatever they have to do to get the money, like garnish their wages and things.
I've just got this process pictured in my mind, and none of this fits that picture. If I were a judge, I'd say go to the clerk and pay your fine. And then when they go to the clerk's office, they can prove that they're indigent or whatever and not pay the fine. But sure.
Maybe I can answer the question. We're under injunctive relief right now with a federal lawsuit, and we are not able to do anything on fines. If we do, then we're going to be held to contempt. So any fines and whatnot right now, we cannot put them incarcerated fines. And that's as a federal lawsuit that we're under right now. And in fact, there's a law firm in Washington that's monthly in contact with us, questioning everything that we're doing in this county. So our hands are pretty well tied right now.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Any more questions about probation?
Any more questions?
Move to approve that report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Commissioner Phillips, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Rattner. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The first thing we'll talk about is drug court statistics. For August, we had 38 males, 16 males, 22 females, for a total of 38. We had, you can see the race breakdown there. In phase 1, we had 12. Phase 2, we had 5. 3, we had 6. 4, we had 12. And phase 5, we had 3. You can see the drug of choice. The biggest one was prescription meds, followed by heroin, and then marijuana. Out of the people who had needed to attend counseling sessions, 201 attended, 205 were required. We have a 98.05% attendance rate. On the Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous meetings, we had 99 attend, only 71 was required to attend those meetings, and we had a 139% rate of attendance, which means they were going to more meetings than they were required to do by our program. Under drug screens, we had 75 negatives and 1 positive. Our program fees collected for August was $2,095 for drug court and $50 in court fines. We had 4 hours of community service, 1 graduation, and no terminations. Under Veterans Court for August, we had 22 participants, 20 males and 2 females. You can see the race breakdown there. Under Phase 1, we had 3, Phase 2, 6, Phase 3, 3, Phase 4, 7, and Phase 5, 3. Their drug of choice in Veterans Court's alcohol, 76%. Out of their counseling group sessions, 118 attended, 121 were required. That's a 98% attendance rate. In Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, 61 was supposed to attend, 61 attended. We had a 100% rate in attendance. Drug screens, we had 61 positives, 61 negatives and 4 positives. The program fees were $825 that were paid, and court costs and fines were $160. We had no community service, no graduations, and no terminations.
Commissioner Irwin, before you leave Veterans Court, I want to congratulate you on a good graduation this time.
It was a nice one. One of the gentlemen graduated back in the summer, I think in June or July, and he wouldn't graduate without his buddies, so he waited till September. And I think if you look on the Journal online, there's a real nice article talking about that. And, and some of these guys, we're very broken when they come in, and they just sing the praises of the court. And if you get a chance to stop by any of the commissioners and look at it, we just created a new veterans wall, and we have all the branches of the service in stainless steel across the top, with an American flag in the middle on a black wall, and it's very sharp. And we appreciate your support from the community and council. DUI court, we had 51 participants, 35 males, 16 females. You can see the race breakdown there. Phase 1, we had 8, 2, we had 16, 3, we had 14, and Phase 4, we had 13. And DUI court, naturally the drug of choice is alcohol, with 2% marijuana and 4% prescription meds. Counseling sessions, we had 64 attend, 59 were supposed to attend, which is 108% participation rate, which means, again, they're attending more than they have to. MRT, we had 33 attend, 33 were required. We had 100% participation rate in that. In AA and Narcotics Anonymous, we had 209 attend. Only 186 was required to attend, so it was a 112% increase over the 12% increase over what we needed. Drug screens, 92 negatives, 5 positives. Program fees, $785 collected. Court costs and fines, $0 collected. 0 community service. We had 2 graduations, 0 terminations. Going to mental health court, 27 participants, 17 males and 11 females. Those figures are one off. You see the race breakdown under the phases. Phase 1 is 6, Phase 2 is 11, Phase 3 is 5, and Phase 4 is 3. The drug of choice is alcohol, followed by marijuana, prescriptions, meds, and ecstasy. Counseling groups, 72 attended, 87 were required. That's only an 83% rate of attendance. MRT, none needed it, none attended. Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, 5 were required, 5 attended, giving us 100% participation rate. Negative drug screens, 24, no positives. Fees collected was $270, court costs and fines $0, community service 0, 0 graduation, and 0 terminations.
All All right, any questions concerning the recovery court's report?
Motion to approve the report.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Fee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gammon. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
This coming Friday from 10 to 2, we're going to have a mini recovery fest at our location. You'll be able to tour the facility, and it's informal. If any of you commissioners would like to attend, we'd like to have you.
Okay, sir. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for your report.
You're welcome.
All right, Public Safety Director report.
Hello, again. All right, we have been quite busy with all of our assessments and realignments and trying to get down in the weeds of everything. And I will point out on the front page of the report there, you see a much more condensed mission statement than what we've had in the past, and that's part of our process to try to provide a little bit more focus and to keep us all of our actions to reflect that. So I think that's something that is will help us to, instead of a big long dissertation that we had there before, that'll help keep us online with that. And that's part of the we're doing a top to bottom analysis in the Emergency Management Office, just looking at everything, seeing where we're at, where do we meet the national standards, and where do we have gaps in our processes and plans and stuff like that. And that was one of the first things we wanted to correct, which was to help set that agenda. As far as our activities go, we've had, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of radio system stuff, both with the new project, but also Peter working with some of our existing systems where we've had some issues and repairs that had to take place. We did conduct this was the second of two, the EOC workshops. Had a total of about 80-something people through the EOC as part of that, and that was just sort of a kind of a reset of our Emergency Operations Center, bringing in all the municipalities and our non-governmental partners, and a whole bunch of stuff is very well received. Kind of set the tone for us going forward with that. From a mitigation is a topic that is definitely becoming more busy here lately. So we've been meeting with our planning and engineering department and staff as far as what support we can give to that process. It's a very defined process, and we're just sort of the gatekeepers of any actions that the county would take. So we have been meeting on that quite a bit back and forth, and that was just another item that we're going to work to make sure that we have a very clear process, so anybody that does need that will be able to see going forward, where it is in the steps and all the pieces and parts, both from the local through the state and the federal level there. As far as responses, a couple of kind of basic, I guess, for us. We had a report of a very large gas line break back in August. It ended up being more of it wasn't as serious as it first came in, but it was a great exercise. There was multiple agencies involved in that response, so a lot of very good activities with that, as well as an illegal burn that kind of went over and over again. The illegal burning is an issue that we've got to figure out how to address here. We have an environmental court that's been set up, but there's some issues with the process, so we're trying to figure out how we can actually use that court to help manage the situation, because our county is becoming more and more populous, obviously, and when people burn things that are toxic, we need to be able to handle it at our level, because typically when the state comes in, if they do anything, they'll write them a letter saying, you shouldn't have done that. And that's great, but that doesn't stop, doesn't provide encouragement for others to do the right thing. So we're going to continue to work with that with the attorney and other folks involved with that process. A lot of what I call stakeholder meetings I've been having with the municipalities, as well as our Red Cross and other folks, to reestablish relationships with our emergency management office. And so those have been very well received, in my opinion. There's a lot of folks here are really excited about working together. So that's really encouraging on our end. So as far as the report piece goes, is there any questions or thing that we can bring up?
The way I understood the law is that we are able to fine for illegal burning up to $50,000 on the first occurrence, depending on the severity of it.
Well, we've had some pushback, so we're trying to figure out
And
the story behind
I'm
the
not
story.
saying that, but there are teeth in the law out there, rather than just getting a slap on the wrist from the state, so.
Yeah, that would, it's something where, like in this case right here, they tore a house down and then they just set it on fire. And then when the fire department went out and put it out, said you can't do that, they, their idea was they're just going to dig a hole and bury it. Well, that's another set of environmental issues in itself. So I think it caught on fire a couple more times in the process as well, over the course of a day or two. But that's kind of the extreme end of that example. We've had several others where people will burn, whether it's tires or trash or stuff like that, that we just don't, we need to get that process fixed for sure.
During the 4 years of my employment here, that was a big problem. And how to address it? Because like you said, people will burn anything. I mean, and people are very sometimes adamant or opinionated in whether they can or cannot burn things. And it's something that we need to get our hands on. I think it's going to have to work with our county attorney and law enforcement and figure out who's best capable of doing that. We didn't have the environmental court. That came on about the time I left. I see that as a potential opportunity to deal with this, but it's something that needs to be dealt with because you've got people who are just downright belligerent. I'll burn what I want to burn, when I want to burn it, where I want to burn it, and if you try to do anything about it, will harm you. And I've been on several of those, and so I think the sooner we can, it's not something that just came up in your term. It's something that's been ongoing for years and years and years. But now, like you said, we're getting to be such a large county. Housing developments interdispersed with rural areas such that, okay, it may be a rural area, but what you're burning here greatly affects these 150 homes right adjoining, and the kids got asthma or whatever, then it causes a great big problem for families. So thank you for digging into this.
Knox County and Davidson County, they have a lot stronger teeth, but they have their own air pollution control that their regs meet or exceed what the states are. That would not be my first choice, but that's something that we may have to look at further down the road if we can't work through the other processes. But definitely that would be like Plan G or Z or something along the way if we had to. One other thing just to add to that as well, and it's my role obviously is very intermingled with all of our emergency services, and so I've started riding with our shifts a few hours on the fire and the EMS side, and that just it helps me to establish relationships with our supervision and staff over there, but also just to learn how they operate and have the interaction. So that's been pretty positive. I know a time or two they've been ready for me to get off the truck because it seems that the call volume spikes when I'm riding for some reason, but that's just luck, I reckon. But anyways, that's been real good, and I'm trying to get those as quicker than I can, but it's a challenge to balance that, to get every shift in with all the other meetings and everything we have going on. So if you guys are good with the report, then I'll move on to is it the budget request that's next on the agenda? Okay. All right, so we had,
Let us approve your report.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do I have a motion to,
Move to approve.
Commissioner Gurley approves the report. Do we have a second for the motion? Second, Commissioner Phillips. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, sir.
thank you. All right, so as we went through the budget process last year, and of course I came at the very end of that, there was additional money that was added to help us with the co-location move of our dispatch, and it got put, all of that got put into the other contracted services line, which was not the case. It needed to be dispersed amongst 4 different lines. So we have broke this out into pulling $18,000 into the communications line, which is the 307. $7,000 for travel for training with the radio system and it's 2 training events that go along with that for the deliverables for that. That's in the 355 line. In the 708 line, communications equipment, that's $70,135. And then in 709, the data processing equipment is $20,000. And that was all, like I said, that was lined out in the budget process. It just got lumped into one. So we're not asking, basically just want to put it where it can be spent properly when those checks start getting written for that.
Any questions on this budget request?
Well, I'm seeing different numbers than what is. I think all of us probably are on the numbers on the iPad are not correlating with your numbers. But did you get with Lisa on these? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This is the form that came from her office.
$118,400 is what's on the iPad.
Yes, that is. You gonna run away from me here? That is the.
I don't remember the total number yet, but that's the portion that comes out of the 339. The other remains.
I think that's what we had identified that needed to be moved immediately. We may have to come back at a later point if there's any of the others that are involved with that, is what the process was.
Bunker people. Settle back row. He can swim by himself.
So that one.
Well, the only reason I brought that up is because the numbers aren't jiving with what you're saying and what I'm seeing here. As long as y'all got that corrected by the time we get to budget, I won't have any problem with it, but just want to make sure we've got, we don't have
Supposed to correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's still a part that stays in 339 that's associated to that.
So,
Oh, okay. There
basically-
is contracted services
Yeah.
that stay in there is what that is. Okay.
So you're wanting to move 118,400
Yes.
Yeah.
into those 4 items.
Yep. That's right.
Well, having said that, contingent upon him getting the right numbers when it comes to budget, I'll make a motion to forward it to budget.
And we'll clarify
Since you're the
what
budget
needs to
chairman,
stay in there too. That way it all.
Motion made by Commissioner P. Having a second. Commissioner Gurley seconds. Call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
All right.
Go on.
All right, so the next one is the Homeland Security grant money. This is something that comes through here each year. Those numbers keep getting smaller and smaller, unfortunately, as it goes. But this is a pass-through grant. There's no out-of-pocket cost on our end. All this money goes to the District 5 Homeland Security Council. So these are the monies, has to do with training, communications equipment, law enforcement equipment, I think some hazardous materials equipment as well. So this is just, we need to have the blessing of the county to go forward so that we say, hey, we want our part of this grant. And the details are there in those pages coming up there.
So it's what, 201,481 total?
Yes. Like I said, there will be no out-of-pocket on our end. Basically, what we've done in the past is as we acquire the equipment, it comes to the emergency management office, then it's dispersed either to the county agencies or to the cities that have requested it, and then we turn in the invoices to get the money back from the Homeland Security Council.
You need our approval to request the money.
Yeah.
I move.
Okay. Commissioner Phillips makes the motion.
Well,
Have a
to
second?
request for that we be part of this grant, I guess is the clarification piece.
You want me to make a you want me to second it and then discuss?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Second, Commissioner Gurley. Any discussion?
Yes, the SHSP, that comes up to $64,615. Is that separate from the 201, or is that a portion of the 201?
That's yours, isn't it? The 64, the communications.
That's part of it.
The 64 shows to be detection equipment, decon equipment.
67.
Okay, this continues on over. Okay, I see.
It's on over to these others.
You've got a whole bunch more.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty lengthy.
Yeah. Okay, so it's all accounted for, and
Yeah.
no further questions.
Okay.
The 201 for, I can't read it.
That's the total.
That's the total. That's not just our part, that's the total for all the agencies that are grouped together.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's a pass-through. We're just the point of contact for
So
it.
they're really
It's very low
Yes.
from what it was.
compared to what it used to be.
It used to be millions.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion, have a second. Let's call a roll on that.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes. Okay, sir.
All right, thank you. The next item is the interlocal agreement between the Rutherford County Emergency Communications District and the Emergency Management Office. And what this is for is that the 911 district has purchased a program called Everbridge, which is a community alerting system. And we are, as the Emergency Management Office, are the key holders with the federal government for what's called IPAWS. And I'm sure it's spelled out, here it is, the open platform network to where we can send out emergency alerts during disasters and other significant events. And this is just formalization to allow us to use Everbridge as the portal to send that out. And then that it protects the 911 district in case we were to do it incorrectly, holds each other harmless in the process. So it's just a formality of allowing us to use a product that we don't own directly. We went and both the attorneys and the directors have agreed to the verbiage in here.
Do we have a motion or questions?
This is nothing new. We've had Everbridge.
We've had it before.
Yeah.
For quite a while, so I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Motion, Commissioner Pease.
Second that.
Second, Commissioner Gurley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
All right, and lastly, we have one more grant opportunity here that we would like to get the permission to apply for. And this is one of the hazard mitigation grants. This would be for a generator at one of our tower sites. And a little bit in limbo here because we're waiting to get back from the federal government whether a tower site is considered a critical facility in the verbiage for the grant criteria. We expect to hear back at any point. If that is the case, we would like to apply for that because we do have a generator that will have to be replaced in the very near future, and we hope that we hope it'll hold on through this process, which could take a year possibly. So we'll have to see how that's going along. There's no guarantees that we would get it, but if we do, there would be a 12.5% match on our end, which is significantly less than the 50,000 plus for what we anticipate the generator would be. So one way or the other, we're going to have to get it. We're just hoping this will help us offset those costs.
Is this Lynch Hill?
Let you.
Yes.
Yeah. Just for an update, Lynch Hill generator is the original AT&T generator from way many years ago. So it's
limping along.
lived its life and then some.
Right.
And so we will have to replace it. I'm surprised we haven't already and had to replace it, but it's badly needed. It's not dependable in the long term. So if we can get some federal money, I think that's great.
Our matches, how much of what amount?
It would be 12.5% of the approximately 50,000. So I don't know the math in my head, but much less.
Oh,
About $6,000, $6,000, $7,000. So we have to have the application is supposed to be into the state, I think, the day before the county commission. But when we talked to them and they said, hey, if you tell us here's the intent, they can work with us on that deadline, because it's a state deadline, not the federal deadline.
And I would assume you're going to emphasize in that grant application that not only does that site serve Rutherford County, it serves Bedford County, and it serves Coffee County, and it serves the state of Tennessee.
Right.
And so it has...
THP's on that tower.
Yes. And so it goes in multiple...
Highlight on that.
It goes multiple entities. So I would consider it definitely a critical.
Okay, do we have a motion to give them the authority to apply for this grant?
Make that motion.
Commissioner Gurley, have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Radford. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, fire and rescue.
I did bring a copy for you.
Thank you.
Chief Farley.
We've been averaging about 475, 490, 5 calls a month, and this month we were up to 595 calls for the month of August. We had 7 structure fires. We responded to 316 medical calls, 60 MVAs with and without injuries, for a total of 595. Year-to-date call volume, we're up to 4,288 calls. 51 structure fires, 48 vehicle fires, 2,243 medical calls. We actually ran about 496 MVAs for the month of, for year to date. 10 of those were extrications. The next sheet shows all the call volumes that the volunteers turn in and their training hours. Countywide, so far this year we've had 91 structure fires, 83 brush fires, and of course that's gone up. I think we had 7 over the weekend with this drought and 1 this morning. We've had 80 vehicle fires. We've had 1,068 motor vehicle accidents, 14 extrications, and we've run a call volume countywide of 5,465. And out the other side, you see the training hours of each individual department's turned in. The next sheet is what we turned into the codes department, showing structures that are damaged. As you can see, it was a pretty big month. And then out there it shows the districts that was a primary. The next sheet is the fire investigation report and what the classification of those were and what the details were as far as what caused the fire. Last page is so far this year we've installed 104 smoke alarms, and one was 405. One was the Safe Awake for the hearing impaired. And Tuesday, last September 17th, I initiated a ban on all open burning in Rutherford County. Back, I think it was in 2012 or 13, the county commission passed a resolution where giving me the authority, working with the mayor, to initiate a ban over burning. Monday, Murfreesboro initiated theirs. I had been thinking about it, so as he started doing that, I thought it's probably a good idea for us to do it. In that resolution, it actually also gives us the authority to issue a $50 citation for each day that they do that. The State Fire Marshal's Office has been, I'm not State Fire Marshal's Office, the State Forestry has been in contact with me and Mayor Ketron. They have initiated the permits to start effectively today. The reason they did that is because with the permit process being in place, the fines for burning, well, with a burn ban is $2,500. So if you're caught burning during this time, and of course you won't have a permit because it's not an issue, that's $2,500. So what it does, it gives more teeth to the penalty of it. So that's one reason they moved that up. And then Mayor Ketron signed a thing today with Forestry too that a lot of times when the humidity's high and moisture's in the air, although it's still dry, they will issue permits in Rutherford County. So I've expressed my displeasure with that, my thoughts of that, and asked him to work with us. So he suggests today that the mayor signed a ban with the forestry to initiate on his level. So what that does, that'll stop them from issuing any permits. Also with this, and of course this will be up to the sheriff, with this burn ban in place and them any permits, law enforcement can write those fines. They can cite these people for reckless burning, burning too close to a wood line or anything. So if law enforcement wants to initiate that, and they have in the past, so that will be up to them. But it's been pretty busy here lately with all the grass fires. All the volunteer fire departments and us too have been responding to a lot of them. We had one on Patterson Road where people started burning debris and stuff, and it was after about 2 hours trying to extinguish that. Kidder had one the other night where I think there was a lot more going on, just a debris burn, but they were out there several hours and hauled several tankers full of water out there to control that fire. So they were out there, it was at the middle of the night. And at that time, we thought we had a structure fire on Flat Rock Road, but it turned out somebody was just burning old debris, and I think that was the house that Kevin was referring to. They decided they didn't need it, they just going to set it on fire. So we're doing social media, doing everything we can to express to people that we have a ban on open burning and not to burn, and what the fines are. And it's amazing this time of year when this happens, a lot of neighbors will start calling in on neighbors that they're burning. So, and a lot of people are scared of fire, especially this time of year as dry as it is. Yesterday we had a structure fire out on Nashville Highway. I haven't talked to my investigator yet, but basically what I've got so far is there's a good possibility that a extension cord running from the house to the pool pump shorted out, caught grass on fire, extended to the house, went up the side of the house, got in the attic. So it's very dry out there. So any kind of spark, and those who are listening, no open flames whatsoever, and you cannot grill with charcoal, you can with propane, no recreational fires, no bonfires, no nothing.
Fire pits.
No fire pits, no nothing. And of course we had, I think Sunday night or Saturday night, somebody decided they wanted a bonfire, so they go back and put that out. So if you start it, we're gonna put it out, regardless of what you're trying to do. And
You're coming to the party.
Yeah, we're gonna be at the party. I had a wedding meeting, called me Friday, said, actually Thursday, said I got a wedding this weekend and they want me to use sparklers. I said, no, absolutely not. I said, tell them if they do, we'll bring them a $2,500 fine. So a lot of times that cures it. So basically we're just trying to maintain that, and it's keeping us busy, keeping all volunteer fire departments busy, and so it's fire season.
Well, the problem with it is it's not just somebody making a burning their own properties. What happens is the wind gets up and it pushes over and impinges on surrounding properties, and then you're not only endangering your own property, but you're neighbors.
Well, if you set
That's
fire
what
and
the
it
problem
burns
is.
somebody's house, a barn down or whatever,
Liable.
you're legally liable for it.
And there have been days this past week, we've had humidity in the levels of 40% and 30%. The air almost is a spark.
Yeah. Well,
Get into that. And this shower we've had today,
I think this weekend the humidity was down to
it
30.
evaporated by the time it hit.
I think with the humidity this weekend was down, it was at like 9 degrees, but the humidity was like 30%, and that's dangerous right there, very dangerous. On the illegal burns, and I know y'all haven't approved my report, but on illegal burns, they're about to run people to death out there with illegal burns. People burning trash. We had a fire that spread the other day. People were burning in a barrel of trash, and it got out, and of course, mysteriously caught the couch on fire that's out there by it. And it started burning about an acre and almost got in the woods. But I would personally like to see something done where we can initiate fines because people, just about every week, 2 or 3 illegal burns. And it's usually the same people doing it. And basically just a slap on the hand and
There's no consequences.
there's no consequences.
Mr. Chairman, what about having the environmental judge come to the committee and talk to see how we can, if there's no sense in having an environmental court if we're not going to be able to give authority to somebody to do something. You know, so it might be advantageous to have the judge come in and address and you all express your concerns and let her give authority or this committee give authority to the chief or sheriff's department or whoever. But if they're going to get a slap on the wrist and $25 fine in environmental court, there's no sense in having a court.
Well, I think you can, whatever the state does, you can require more, you can't do no less.
Sure.
But the issue I'm getting, I have parents call me when people are burning and said, my child's got asthma, they can't go to school because they're inhaling these things in the air. Older people with emphysema, then what is it, COPD. And it's just, I mean, people suffer from this. And if they're outside, they can't be outside because all that stuff gets in their lungs. And I've had a woman call me, very upset with me, and call me several different names because I didn't have the authority to do anything. But she said my child had been home from school for 2 weeks because of asthma. So it's really a big deal.
We'll send an invitation out to the judge. Do I have a motion to approve the report?
So moved.
Commissioner Rather, have a second. Commissioner Gammon. All those in favor of approving the report, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Emergency management, any further on that? You covered everything in yours? Okay. Ambulance report. Director Hudgens.
Hello, everybody. Melanie's sick, so I've asked her number 2, Debbie,
I'm the replacement.
to help me out. Okay, the ambulance service has set 2 records for the month. We had 3,121 calls, and we dropped our response time down to 6.5.
That's awesome.
So keep in mind, we're still short staffed, so I can't ask any more of our paramedics. I mean, our paramedics and EMTs, the county is definitely getting their money's worth out of them. So I'd like to brag on that a little bit. Very proud of them.
We hadn't seen that in years.
I don't know that we've ever seen it. I can't remember it in my career. But we're going to get it down even farther, so hold on. We had 51 DOAs, and the number of autopsies we sent were 18. And we're going to be getting into that a little bit further tonight. And I want you to keep in mind on that, since July 1st, we've sent 60. I checked before I came in, so in the last 2 months, we've hit 60. And if we stay on that track, we're probably looking at close to $675,000 for the next budget year, so just want to keep those figures in the back of your mind. Okay, we billed $1,571,867. Total collections is $777,069. Year to date is $1,465,17. Projected yearly collections are $8,790,102. We're at 66% collection rate. Insurance write-offs were $392,978, and other write-offs were $254,748. Any questions on that part of the report? Mr. Chairman, I'm going to skip over before I get to the, I've also got 3 thank you notes. Before we get into the convalescent part, this is the last month of the pilot program, I guess you would call it. I didn't know if you want to approve this report prior to us getting into that, or you want me to just continue?
I think we will approve this report before we get into convalescent report.
One thing before we get into that, I've got 4 paramedics that have met the requirements from going from a paramedic 1 to a paramedic 2. They've worked hard for that, so I think it's going to go up the pay grade. I've never done this before, so I'm assuming I have to come through this committee.
Yes. But I think you already have that in your budget to,
Yes, sir.
to approve those. And the responsibility of what they have to do to meet that raise or that degree, become that level of paramedic. It's a lot of hard work.
Yes, sir.
So we will continue with it. But like I said, I think that's already in your budget to do that.
It is.
So you're recommending those 4 to step up to
Yes,
that paramedic raise or increase. Okay. Any questions?
You need a motion to approve the report.
Approve the report.
So,
Motion made by Commissioner Pease, seconded by Commissioner Gurley. And since we have that increase in there, we will vote on that by
You're going to include that in this motion?
and put that in that motion, because that's part of his report.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman,
we got to vote.
sorry.
We're going to do it by voice vote. Approve those 4 individuals.
Is that a roll call?
That's a roll call.
Okay. Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Peay?
yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, I'm going to ask Brian Gaither to come up to the table. He's supervisor that's over the convalescent service. And we've got all the facts and figures that y'all wanted from the beginning. Present.
And I think all that's in the report. I think it was presented last month, and we added August to it this month. As you can see, the billed amount went up by about $60,000. The collections are down, but there's some kind of coding thing with Medicare that's going on that's denying claims. And from the non-emergency side, it's denied like 267 claims, and then even on the 911 side, it's 926 claims. Once that's something that's at Medicare, we thought it was going to be fixed by the 10th of September. It's still not done yet. So those claims will be processed, and that collection for August will go up.
Now, those claims, Are they just on the convalescent side,
Sir,
or is
it's
that both?
on our side, on
what
the
I was-
911 side, $764,000.
In claims.
And the convalescent side is 226,000.
And it's not just our ambulance service, it's everybody.
So this, you're talking federal here. It's not-
It was a change that Medicare made.
What's the dollar difference between a regular ambulance run, insurance pays or whatever, and Medicare? What does Medicare give you for the run?
For a non-emergency call, it's about $237 per call.
What do you normally get?
For the majority of the runs that the non-emergency is making, it is Medicare. It's probably 90 to 95%.
I'm talking about a regular ambulance run that you get called out, somebody's cut themselves, whatever. That's not all Medicare.
Well, the billed amount's like $775.
Right.
But
Roughly half.
yeah, those
from regular
write-offs,
insurance.
when you see all those write-offs, that's, you bill this, but they pay less than that.
A little less than half of what insurance is typically paying, roughly. Just depends on what insurance
Well, I
company.
guess what you look at is the difference between gain and loss between the employees you have to hire and benefits and the cost of the ambulance at the time, and does it ever interfere with a run or not in that sense. So the comparison is, what's the difference in the cost of having the personnel and the cost of paying them and the cost of what you got coming in?
Oh,
How does it
well,
offset each other?
It's in that last column right there. Like the total expenses for August was $32,149, and even with the collections being down from what they were the previous month, we still was $1,814 ahead for the month of August, which is, I don't know exactly what it's going to go up, but we billed $60,000 more for that month. The previous month was 147, and collections were 69,000.
So what would happen if an ambulance had a wreck while you're in a convalescence with a patient like that, non-emergency?
I don't know how to answer that question. And one thing that we really hadn't touched on with another benefit of the convalescent is we're able to hire basic EMTs, which we can't hire on the 911 trucks. So it's a lot of training before they make it to the 911 side. They learn how to drive. They learn how to do the computers. They learn how to deal with patients, to work stretchers. A lot of that stuff that it takes time to get them onto the 911 truck, a lot of that's taking place on the convalescent side. And as short as we are on the 911 side, because I'm able to hire basic EMTs, I have more people that want to work that I have hours to let them work.
So the bottom line is, we made 1,833 calls, and we made 159,000 off of that to the plus side.
Yes, sir.
And we're fulfilling a need right now. Are we having any complaints from other ambulance services and so on, or has that become still an issue, or not? Or I haven't heard any myself.
They're not coming to me.
They're not
I'm
calling
sure.
me.
I'm sure they're there.
And so you're right about the skill level. I mean, like my wife a couple of years ago had major surgery and then was transported to rehab, and all that required was, if she'd felt like it, she could have gotten in my car and I could have taken her down there, but she didn't feel like it, so she went in the back of an ambulance. But it didn't require any extra equipment or any skill set beyond, basic care and so on. So, you're going to have those. I mean, that happens every day. People go from the hospital to rehab, or rehab home, and they still may not be able to walk or whatever but they need a way other than a car. So, to me, I would say we keep going with this and evaluate it another year from now. I think, you know, as with anything along this line, we should keep a close eye on it. And to me, we should, I think I can see going on forward with this, and then a year from now doing the same thing. We're having the same conversation. And then if we're going 2 years down the road, then we can say, hey, everything's going smooth. This is a needed service. There are no big complaints, no big hiccups. We're actually, as you pointed out, training people, because you've got to get experience on the front end. That's how, just as you talked about raising the level of a paramedic from a 1 to a 2, an EMT learns by doing. And while they're not doing acute stuff necessarily, they still learn. And so to me, it makes sense to keep going, but still, let's come back. And I think that's our job as commissioners, is to keep a hand and an overview on things, along with the mayor. And so that's kind of my take on it. Mr. Mayor, you have any further comment on your perspective?
Back last year when we first started this, I did get a couple of complaints from the private sector. How many private sector companies are there operating?
Locally? There's 3 that are local.
I think. Had a couple of complaints, but Deputy Mayor Samlin, I think you have a friend of yours that actually has one of those, right? And he complained at first, but I haven't heard any more complaints since. I think there's been enough business with their just the growth of the county. I don't think that any of them gone out of business. Really fulfilling a niche at this point. But that's up to the commission, whatever direction y'all want to go.
If we go in this direction and get to keep doing it, I believe if I can utilize the convalescent truck to do some other transfers from the hospital, I can keep more ambulances in the county. And that's my goal. We're not out to hurt anybody's business. We're out to help the entire population of Rutherford County.
That's my biggest concern is I'm behind y'all, I understand you know that. I want you to have everything you need, absolutely. But what I hear also is that you don't have enough people on the 911 side.
That's true.
And you need to get those people. And I understand the training issue. I mean, that's in a lot of organizations, that when people come in and, they learn the ropes and all that. But the thing, it's not going to be a profit margin on this thing. I can tell you this right now. If you compare the number of bodies that are transporting, just say what it is. It's a service we're going to provide. I don't have an issue with that. But let's just say what it is. Because when you figure all the retirement, the insurance, everything else involved in this, and possible accidents of transporting at $250 a pop compared to $700, and you look at the number of bodies that are actually used for this, even though it's a good training deal, it's not really a profit situation. It's really not. But, okay, I'm good with it. I mean, but we need to be sure we have the people you need.
But out of the employees that are working on my side now, only one of them meets the requirements to work on the 911 side, and she started out over there and wasn't going to make it. So that's why she came back to me.
And Commissioner, part of the reason, honestly, I could fill these holes today. And then in 3 months, I'm going to have that same number of holes left. I soon hired the best at the beginning and not go through that. So I'll take that responsibility, or
I trust you.
but I'm only hiring the best.
Mr. P?
When we started this program, part of the problem was y'all were getting these calls and having to make the transfers anyway. And that's part of the reason I didn't have a problem going along with it. And having heard this and seen the money situation there, and the fact that you're able to train these people better, I'm going to make a motion that we continue this for another year, review it then.
I concur. I'll second that.
Second here, Commissioner Gammon seconds.
And could I increase my trucks. Could I add another one to it? Or is this something that would have to go through budget?
Are you using,
Basically 1.5 vacation, and we're having to use 2.
well, what I'm getting at, you've got reserve trucks. Or
Yes,
is
sir.
that what you're talking about using, or you're talking about going out and buying another
Well-
vehicle? If you're talking about buying new vehicles, that's outside the budget.
We're talking about staffing.
Staffing.
Okay.
I was gonna say no to you.
Yeah, that's, I was fixing to say that wasn't in your budget.
If it becomes permanent, I won't go to the vans. I can buy 2 vans for the price of one ambulance. And
What kind of van?
they're just like we had back in the old days,
So,
like when I grew up.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Okay.
That was a horse.
I tell you what, let's go ahead and prove that we're gonna go on for another year. And if you wanna bring that cost back to us, and we'll look at that
Bring that
at the
back
next time around.
some numbers.
Bring us some numbers.
So run it to make it succeed.
Yeah, bring us some numbers to see what you wanna do there and bring it back. All right, we have a motion to go for another year, and I'm gonna ask for a roll call count on that.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Peay?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes. Okay.
I've got one comment. I got a chance at the ball game last Friday night at Stewart's Creek to hang out with a couple of his paramedics. And they took a picture of me and put it on, I think, on their Facebook page. But it brought back to me the light of, you know, sometimes at games there's, nothing goes on. But, you know, at this game, and, you know, because of HIPAA, if you're going to observe, you have to be cognizant of that fact. But the incidents went from oops to, you know, we got to get this person onto a hospital. And but I did see that, you know, every time, since you've got to have an ambulance there, first call, we got an ambulance there pretty doggone quick, but then 6, which is the closest ambulance a mile from the school, was out an extended call, and so then 7 came in, and then 8 came in, and you know, it became, yeah, we really actually need some more ambulances down here in the north end of the county, you know, especially when you have ball games going on. But, you know, the guys and gals really do a great job. You've got some well-trained people. They're able to handle a lot of it right there, and I really appreciate it. It kind of just refreshed my mind of what it's all about. It's about taking care of the public, whether it's a kid who's skinned his knee or whatever the case may be, to someone who's having a heart attack or something more serious. And so thank you, and thank all the men and women out there that are manning these vehicles and answering these calls.
Okay, sir, I think we're now going to move into our discussion of the Forensic Center.
Mr. Chairman, last month, I was asked to bring the experts, and that's what I've done. I've known these young ladies for many years. I've worked close with them. They're very well respected and can answer any questions that I'm not able to answer. So I've asked them to come tonight, and I believe y'all have the white paper that was
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Gammon asked last month if, and when I made the comment that I had the white paper, I sent you stuff by email. I had Rachel send some information out by email. You have some additional information on your laptop or iPad in front of you, but I was scurrying around trying to find this book that Mayor Burgess had left. But this was the white paper book that had some information in it that I couldn't put my hands on until I found this book. But what I did send you is what I had in a separate file. This goes back to 2017 of the last time that this was looked at by Mayor Burgess and the commission at that point in time. And so I have an actual description. This is from the scientific working group of the medico-legal death investigation, talking about regional medico-legal autopsy and death investigation centers, construction, staffing, and cost. But it's dated on September 17th of 13, so it is aged, okay? So I'm gonna pass these out to you, but I think that we can probably get a pretty good idea of what a forensic center would actually cost us. And now, yeah, go ahead and bring Dr. McDonald up and the other folks. And if you recall, the information that Director Hudgens mentioned to you about if we stay on pace with the number of autopsies that are being sent to Nashville, is going to probably hit 675. What did we get this year, Director Hudgens? What was our total this year? Almost 500,000? Yes. So we come close to that. And with the number of deaths that we're seeing escalate with our population increasing as well. I was looking back in this book that I found, and there was a Johnson City up at the East Tennessee State University's James H. Quillen College of Medicine. They have a forensic center, and also when Mayor Burgett, my good friend who is now Congressman Burgett, was mayor of Knox County, I believe the state gave Knox County $4.5 million to help build a forensic center in Knox County to handle those. All of our bodies, if you recall, last month, all of our bodies are going to a private sector company in Nashville, and the problem is now we find out that a lot of Memphis is beginning to send some of their bodies to Nashville, from what I've been told, because they're overcrowded. And the greater Nashville area can't handle, so we're looking at 8-9 month delay in getting the determination or the cause of death. And for Sid's case, even longer than that. So I'll turn it over to Dr. McDonald and the experts from the state.
Let me just introduce these folks. This is Dr. Adele Lewis, who's our state chief medical examiner and has been since
July.
No.
No, really.
Oh, officially since July.
Officially since July.
But has been with the department for 3 years easily. And Denise Martin is our state medical legal death investigator. She has lots of experience. They both have experience from previous lives before the state, and have brought to the state a much more, organized approach to death investigation across the entire state. We have lots of workshops. I've attended several to get us all on the same page, to make sure we're doing things properly, to make sure that the average person understands who needs to go for a postmortem, who doesn't, all the duties and responsibilities, and it's, I think, made a big difference in the quality of the whole operation across the state, particularly this county. I think we've done it. Obviously, I have the luxury of sharing office space with them, so I get to interact with them every day at the Department of Health. So I feel like I get a little bit of an edge, but we've been working on the notion of getting our own facility, just because population growth has been so large here. The number of people we send by statute is quite a few, and it's not going to get smaller. And we've had informal and formal talks with Major Burgess and yourself over the years, and it's a royal we. There's a white paper that has been developed to look at what that would take to make this a reality. There's lots of community partners here, MTSU and the medical school with Meharry, nursing. There's just a lot of opportunity here, and I think we just think the time is right now to talk about this in more detail. Have you guys had the opportunity to look at the white paper? Do you have any specific questions? I'm not sure how you want to proceed with things.
I'd just like for you to run through a scenario, your recommendation. What is that recommendation? Summarize that, including if you have a ballpark figure. We'll just run through that. What would it look like? Nashville, they do it with some private company, is that correct?
The Forensic Center in Nashville is a private company.
And why don't they operate their own?
The Davidson County was not interested in doing that. When they put the RFP out, the only company that responded was this private company, and for whatever reason, the county itself is not directly administering that facility.
If they're not interested in doing it, why should we be interested in doing it? Could another one of these private sectors come into Rutherford County? I'm just trying to figure out if they don't want to do it, why should we want to do it?
Sure. And I think the main reason you would want to do it, and you were talking about this with your convalescent transport before, is that you're going to provide a better service to your citizens. You're going to get a shorter turnaround time on autopsy reports. You're going to get formally trained medical legal death investigators to come to death scenes. Not that Carl and his guys aren't doing a good job, but they're EMS trained. They are not specifically trained and boarded like Ms. Martin is in those death scene investigations. Again, the population is growing, and I really think that you guys could also, with this center, tack on a training center so that we could train people nationwide on death scene investigation. And the other thing that we're really lacking in the state is we don't have a facility that could handle a mass fatality. So we're just waiting for the new Madrid fault, to shake apart, and we don't have anywhere to put those bodies.
How can I compare that with trash? People all over Middle Tennessee don't have a place to put their trash, so they come to Rutherford County. If we were to have our own facility, and Nashville wanted to start sending all theirs here, Memphis wanted to start sending all theirs here, could we tell them no?
Yes. If we set it up right, we could.
You could tell them no, but you could also make a profit.
You could make a lot of money.
Not if they're overburdened. That. Once again, let's get back to trash, okay? We're bringing in a lot of trash, and nobody wants outside trash, but it's been that way for years. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think we can offset costs by doing those types of things, but is that the best interest of the citizens of Rutherford County to start doing all that? Do we want to service Rutherford County, or do we want to be more regional? These are the questions that are kind of running through my mind. And are we opening up something that we, as citizens of the county, are not going to like 10 years from now? I see a hand going up back there, maybe.
Commissioner Garrett? It is for the service of the county, but the idea was making it regional to offset the cost. But my goal is strictly for the county, and because I'm running out of excuses sitting with families 9 months later, and they can't claim their life insurance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
I understand that. I really do. I'm playing a little bit of the devil's advocate right here, and I don't think we ought to just jump into anything unless there's a really good discussion on it. I understand expenses. I've been sitting in this seat for almost 30 years, okay? So there are some things that I understand, but I also realize there's some things that we've done 30 years ago that we're sorry that we did right now. And I just want to make sure that if we're doing something new and nobody else is doing it, why aren't they doing it? Nashville could do it, and they could start charging all of us to bring those things in too. So why don't they do it?
My question would be, why aren't they doing it?
That's
To
what I'm-
provide a better
yeah.
service down there. I mean,
I think that they are doing it.
You mean doing more post-mortem? I'm not sure.
talking about themselves, to have, having their own facility, not contracting it out, I think is what Commissioner Phillips is talking about.
I understand it's a private company that's doing it, and it's not a Nashville or Davidson County, whatever you want to call them. This would be a Rutherford County facility. And the other one in Nashville or Davidson County is not a Davidson County facility. So why? Why is it not?
I heard Johnson City mentioned a minute ago. That's in association with Coolin?
Yes.
ETSU. Well, that's kind of one of the things I see. I'm familiar with there because my daughter spent several years up there. I think we have an opportunity. Someplace has to be provided for people to be trained, and so I think there's an opportunity to mesh with. We have one of the largest universities campuses in the state right here, and there is a Commissioner. I see your analogy with trash, but I also see the compassionate side and the financial side and everything of that family that does have to wait for 8 or 9 months just to get an answer. Hey, did my husband, wife, daughter, or son die of natural or some other cause? And in the meantime, everything's in a limbo. And it's hard enough to go through that process. I've done 2 funerals in the last 3 days. It's hard enough for people to go through that process when they know what's going on, much less when they don't know what's going on.
Would a better analogy be juvenile detention?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Why don't we send our kids somewhere else or something another? I think it's a service, but it's also a good opportunity for collaboration with one of the larger employers in our county and a great learning center, as Commissioner Reed likes to say, is true blue, you know. So we're getting beyond and looking at other things to get into in collaboration at MTSU into other areas that have not been ventured into before. And so I see this as an opportunity. That's the reason I was curious about Johnson City.
I think that's part of it. I know what the mayor is talking about, MTSU and Meharry and what's involved there. So, Mayor?
Yeah. When I was first approached by now Director Hudgens back in 16, he approached me. Folks from the state, I think going back to the previous commissioner, was engaged in this process. They all thought it was a great opportunity to enter into a P3, a public-private partnership, with MTSU and with the state and with we as the county. We as the county, when looking at this paper, I think I heard and the sympathy for the families not being able to have the closure. If it was a SIDS death, it could be even longer than that. You know, because you don't know if it was a criminal act on that child who died in the crib or whether it was homicide. You know, and for to determine that cause of death, it could be 12 months or longer. So you're keeping the courts open, and you're also not having closure for the family at that point. Also, I looked at it from, okay, so what's it going to cost us and how do we pay for that? Because you've got the initial cost of building the building, so this is estimated at 3.4, excuse me, was it 3.5 million at $340 a square foot to build a building. When talking with Carl, he says that, or the director says we have 2 drawers at St. Thomas, 2 cooling drawers to put dead bodies. Stonecrest has 2 drawers. If we were to have a mass incident, like a shooting in Las Vegas at an MTSU football game, and you had 100 bodies, where are you going to take them? Well, you got to buy reefer trucks, purchase them, and you can't resell those because the dead bodies were stacked in it, like at the hurricane in Houston, right? or you have to commandeer an ice rink in Nashville and lay them out. That's the only two places you can until the bodies have been identified. So if we were to come in and build a building for 3.4, and now we're looking at estimated of our county citizen dollars paying $675,000 this next year to determine the cause of death, that helps offset the $1.1 million going towards operational costs. And if we make this kind of a regional and bring in, as listed here, Bedford, Marshall, Coffee, Cannon, DeKalb, Wilson, and other counties in surrounding area, they bring their bodies here, then we collect that dollars to help offset the operating cost on a daily basis. I'm sure we could probably go to Christy Houston and request money for brick and mortar, which they're good about, and it has to be medically related to get a grant from Christy Houston. Dr. Hildreth at Meharry, when we talked to him about it, he got so excited with that new merger between HSU and Meharry and the medical school, the 3+3 program. He said it's very, very rare that a medical doctor has an opportunity. They might be able to do a biopsy on a leg or an arm or something like that during their term of going through med school, but not a whole body. That they would have an opportunity. So it's not only a teaching opportunity, but it's an opportunity for quicker closure for our families, and an opportunity where it doesn't cost us the kind of money that I think that some people would envision that it would cost. I think MTSU has free land where the old hospital used to be. Would be a great site if we encourage them to put that facility there and put in a cooler large enough to handle 100 bodies in the event of a train wreck with ammonia on it, or a mass pile up on ice out on the interstate and you got 30 dead bodies. Where are you going to put them?
But I think, and great information on my angle, but where I was so interested in it before was also the aspect of law enforcement, the teaching tools that are there 100%. And all the cases I've worked on, I know Chief Preble right there, she's worked on a ton of them. And back in the day, you go to General Hospital in Nashville, and that was the place you went. Of course, times have changed. But it's invaluable for locally, because we should, and no doubt, have first dibs on a homicide case with Nurse Berlevert smarter than everybody. And when you're trying to take care of families that have had whether it's an OD or whether it's a murder, no matter what it is, they want to know what happened to their loved one. And time is at hand. I mean, I've had cases where all you can do is dig and hope you can get information, but sometimes it's 3, 4, 5, 6 days before you can even get a report back from an autopsy, or longer. And it's critical to get that done as soon as possible to point you in the right direction. And we're growing. Everybody's under stress. I mean, one of the hardest things I know a detective goes through in any department, law enforcement agency, is when you are working these type cases, because they want an answer. They want to know why. And the thing I had brought up last time was I really would like to see us look deeper, closer at overdose cases to see what really caused it, what's the drug, where'd it come from. And I think that should open a new door of how we go after people, because you got these people that are selling it, and most of the time law enforcement, not all the time, but most of the time, my past dealing with it, it's an OD. And unless you got something obvious, it's an OD. No, another person died. Even if they had lived a life of just in the gutter, everybody deserves to be looked at, no matter what.
So you've got a new commissioner at the state. Do you still feel there's a commitment on behalf of the state to investigate us moving forward?
I have not addressed this with our new commissioner yet. Certainly from my office, you've got our time and our expertise at your disposal. We would have to address it with the commissioner, and you might know someone in the legislature who might want to appropriate funds for something as well.
Well, it'd be good timing. We have a legislative steering meeting coming up in January, so it'd be a good time to put
Well, I think the other
Pressure on them.
the other good timing, I don't want to say good timing when I'm talking about this kind of stuff, but the Department of Health is very committed to the opioid crisis. I mean, we're really leading the way in many, many ways
The
on that.
governor's committed to that.
And the governor is, my previous supervisor, that was what he was primarily involved in trying to, it's horrible, and our suicide rate's going up, and is that because of the opioid addiction? Are those the same people? We've got to sort all that out and figure it out.
So y'all are not aware of any grant money that might be available to help build a facility like this?
Not other
Not
than
currently.
the see Houston.
The building
So I was talking about through the state or federal.
Not right now. I'm not aware of any. I'm certainly happy to dig around.
Well, as the governor starts building his budget starting this next month, that would be a good opportunity for, I found some information in here from one of our previous county commissioners who is now a House member. Charlie would be a good one, and along with another commissioner who's a medical doctor as well. It would be good to get on board with this and try to get the money in the governor's budget.
Well, one other question is, this $675,000 that we're spending per year now, as estimate, I know that's estimate, but I understand that we could offset this $3.5 million, and I assume Christy Houston might have money, and the state might have money too. But my question on that $675,000 is how much in the future would we be paying? If we own the facility, we're still going to have costs. If we're operating the facility or if the school, the vision is the school going to be operating this? Are these people going to be state employees? Are they going to be county employees? I didn't hear that. I'm kind of like Commissioner Phillips. I want to hear, your vision on how this would operate and possibly what our costs would be. I can see there's a possibility it could be a cost center, kind of like our juvenile detention or the other thing we mentioned. And I don't have a problem with that, but I would like to have that nailed down a little closer.
I think the operating cost was estimated at $1.1 million for operational cost, and I think if you'll look at what I handed out to you back on that, what page it was on, Chairman.
And if you were to offer some trainings here too, you could bring in some revenue from that as well. Right now, there's really only one death investigation training course, and it's in St. Louis. And we spend a lot of money sending people up there.
So there
for
might be
training.
some federal grants available as well?
There very well could be.
What's the training?
A medical legal death investigation training is, again, it's in St. Louis. They have two different courses. They have a basic and an advanced course. It lasts a week. It goes very in-depth. And we would love to have a center of excellence like that here in Tennessee as well. And we've got the personnel to staff it.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, it's one of those situations where the timing is right for this sort of educational centre to start up. I mean, you'd have national interest in it, not just from Tennessee. I mean, it's...
Well, yeah, and MTSU has an internationally renowned forensic anthropologist in Hugh Berryman, and he's been involved with this as well.
All of it sounds, everything sounds positive. On the other side of the ledger, what would be any liabilities that the county may have, any at all?
Well, by statute, you're immune from civil liability when you're investigating a death that falls under the medical examiner law or when you're performing an autopsy. Does that answer your question?
Part of it, yeah. Is there any downside to this? Let's say, I'm not going to say MTSU, but Vanderbilt, okay, or someplace, a Titans game, there would be a bomb, something major, and there were a number of bodies. All of those, they would bring all those to Murfreesboro, and our facility, and would put them on ice. Would that be a cost to us?
That would depend how you would work out the cost of transport in between the facility and the referring counties. Some places, Forensic Medical, which is the private company in Davidson County, used to own their own transport service. Now they do not. So those are just all separate costs that would need to be worked out and tinkered with.
You have MOUs now.
Sorry?
Well, you have MOUs right now with Metro and everybody surrounding Nashville, greater Nashville.
Actually, not with everybody. They, I think, speaking of contracts with the Forensic Medical, I think with the majority of the counties they work with, they do not have contracts or MOUs. And I know the Obion County used to send to Shelby County, and they've been so frustrated with the turnaround time in Shelby County that they're sending to Nashville now. So that's an additional load on them.
Well, I guess where I was going also, Commissioner, was if you do have a catastrophic issue down there, we're sending a ton of people down there, and it's going to hit our costs other than the federal government coming in and, okay, here's the amount of time you put in Homeland Security and that kind of thing. And that's, we've all trained for that over the years to Homeland Security training. So there are those MOUs in place for those type of things, which are, Titan State was one of them that was studied. And they don't have everything they need down there either, enough ambulances or anything.
Right.
So if we were to bite into this and say it sounds too good to be true, but if we were to bite into this and want to proceed with this, what would be the process? We built a new judicial building, okay, but we were ready for it. The personnel, the judges were already all in place. Nothing is in place here. So what would be the process that we would go through, and as far as staffing and opening that facility? What would we do? Who's in charge of that?
I think you would, of course, here's your list of all the staffs of estimated 40 people that it would take to actually put it together and what I handed out to you. I think the first initial step would be to sit down with MTSU. Let's have a meeting with the state, you guys, to see if we've dug this up since going back for 2 years ago from 17. See if there's still interest on all parties. If there are, then we would naturally go to the next step. If we were to build it on property that MTSU currently owns, then I'm sure that Dr. McPhee would have to take it to his board of trustees, because they are operated independently now under the Haslam administration gave them that authority that they can so choose to do that. And I'm sure that they would have to bring in, they have their own design team inside of MTSU, and if it's going to be on their property, I'm sure they would want to control the building. Then I think we would have to sit down and figure out how we're going to, who's going to staff it. Are they going to be MTSU employees, or are they going to be county employees? It's it's just maybe we just participate and send our $675,000 out there to them, let them run it. I don't know. It's just you got one little step at a time if there's an interest.
It's in the idea form, I guess, what you're saying right here. If any of you have sat there and read through these white pages, I've done that. I've done that today, and as I read through this, and I looked at the counties that surround us, and of course, this is a few years old, and you sit there and start totaling up this amount of money that is going elsewhere that's right beside us.
Right.
And it totals up to quite a bit of money, but yet they're doing this, and what we're doing too, and then as you go through the pages there, and the pages, if you read that, it lists exactly what employees are needed, what their responsibilities are, chain of command is in here, everything's in those white pages. It talks about it, and a lot of work went into that. And I sat there this afternoon looking at that, and I said, why did we not look at it further, or why did we not go that way? Because as we are looking at it now, Wilson County, back at that time, they had 90. And just imagine what it is now. Everybody has increased. So, I can see where now, I wonder if this is the reason some of the others haven't done it, is that it's something that they didn't want to talk about, or
That's
something
something I
they
never
just didn't want to do.
I thought about that.
People don't think about it.
Nobody just really didn't think about it. It's happening, I don't see it, it's somewhere else. And when you look at the fact that we have the university and that they have gone in with McCary, and I mean, we're sitting here maybe in a good opportunity to do this, to assist and maybe put the idea out there and see where we go from there. So I guess I'm sitting up here as chairman to look for someone to say, okay, let's investigate further, or where we go. Mr. Rath.
This is my first meeting on this committee in person. I have watched it via my den and my big screen, so I was familiar with the discussion from last month. I certainly think the time is ripe. I think someone said, I think the location is ripe. With that being said, I don't want to pass up a good opportunity for the county and a good opportunity for the service of not just our citizens but others. But I also want to say that I have some of the same concerns as Commissioner Phillips, that we're looking at something that could be so beneficial and such a wonderful thing for Middle Tennessee, especially with MTSU here. I mean, we've got all the elements, I think, that could make this work, but I don't want to get 20 years down the road and say, oh my gosh, what were we thinking? And look at what it's cost the citizens of this county, and look at what it's doing to them. We're there now with something else. I don't want that to happen. The one thing that really, really concerns me is if this commission body or this county legislative body does not control who is able to use this facility, I'll have a problem with it. Because it can get out of hand, and then it becomes a burden on our county and our citizens. So those are my thoughts. I'll make the motion that we move forward with this idea, and start taking necessary steps to move forward and plan it out. But I did want to throw my thoughts out there that we need to have some control over this.
I concur with what Michael said, and I would second that motion. And so probably be a pretty lengthy process to even put this together, and maybe rightfully so. Okay, we don't want to jump into something, and I know it'll be a lengthy process. But even the MTSU connection, there's been some outstanding cooperation between MTSU and our community, and it's a two-way street. It's not just a one-way street. You know, we gave MTSU a 100-year lease, if I'm not mistaken, on the Guy James property. Just gave it to them. So something like that could be brought to their attention when it comes to this other piece of property in my mind. So
we need free chocolate milk every commission meeting.
I'm not so sure about that, but I do think that that relationship with MTSU should be real exciting. If we didn't have MTSU, I'm not sure you guys would even be as excited about this possibility as you are right now. But MTSU is not only is it growing, in my mind anyway, and I'm proud of MTSU because MTSU is in my district. Okay? And the MTSU is not only growing from the number of students that are there, but it's growing in reputation nationally, and that's a good thing. And a lot of times when I'm somewhere else and not in Rutherford County, and I'll tell them that I'm from Murfreesboro, that's the first thing that they say is MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University. And so it's been, I think, a really good marriage, and a lot of the success of this project would hinge upon that relationship and it being beneficial to both MTSU and Rutherford County as well.
Yeah, I just reiterate what's just been said. I think we've got to, do our due diligence and set up the process and set up the organization in a way that we maintain a handle on it. But I think, to answer Commissioner Rather's statement, 20 years from now, if we do this, we'll be asking the question, why didn't we build it bigger? Because that's
what the other centers are saying.
The growth is, so astronomical in this area. And I graduated from MTSU 50 years ago. I went down, one of the first interviews I had before I took an engineering job in Akron, Ohio, was with the DeKalb County School District. Decatur was a separate entity from Atlanta at that point in time. You could drive from Atlanta to Decatur. Now it's just all one thing. It's been that way for the last 30 years or so. So I think that's how we're evolving too. I was driving down Nolensville Road this morning, and there's very little demarcation between when you leave Davidson County till you get to Nolensville. And that's changed over the last 5 or 6 years, really. So I really think that the location's right. We're the center of the state. We have the university that's looking to go beyond the basic liberal arts programs and offer educational opportunities in various fields, and we have a need. And if we can make it cost effective, I'm all for it.
Okay, we have a motion made by Commissioner Rather, and it was seconded by Commissioner Phillips to go on with a study to find out where we go with this. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. And I would say that the other regional forensic centers, they're run in a combination of ways. Collaborations between UT and Shelby County. Again, the Nashville model is unique. Hamilton County runs Hamilton County, Knox County runs Knox County, and then ETSU does Johnson City. So these are conversations that these other counties have had too, and you just have to kind of navigate those waters and figure out what's going to work best.
Mayor, when you come back to us with some thoughts as to this is kind of what we see, and I know all of those things will be preliminary at some point in time, but when you come back with all of those thoughts, will some of those MTSU relationships and Meharry or whatever it is, all of those other things kind of been at least discussed and some agreement to agree to do those things?
Okay. I think there's going to have to be, the first initial meeting, there's got to be collaboration, making sure that everybody's together. Want to make sure that the State Department of Health is there as well in these meetings. I'll invite the chairman or anybody else on this committee that wants to go. We can have that first initial meeting and see where we go.
Have any time frame in mind, like 6 months or 3 months or something like that?
I'll initiate a phone call tomorrow and see if I can get something set up soon.
So our goal may be to try to have something to carry before our legislative committee in January.
That would be my goal. I mean, if you want to start moving in that direction, I would say by the steering committee, when we address the General Assembly members that night, when the steering meets with them, would be to lay this in their lap and say, we need help. But it would not hurt now to go ahead and start talking to Brian Terry and to Charlie Baum and to Senator White, Senator Reeves, and tell them that, okay, here's what we're thinking about. We would like for you maybe to get this in front of the governor. And if you all wouldn't mind, go ahead and tell the commissioner after tonight what has been approved by this body, and so put it on his radar so he can maybe mention it when the Department of Health's budget goes in front of the governor. I know how all that works. So.
Dr. Piercy's reading on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I haven't kept up with all the commissioners. They've
She's very dynamic, and I
Yeah,
think she'd be very
I'm still
receptive.
thinking of Dreisner, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
she's not as tall.
All right.
Yeah, not as tall.
Thank you,
She's not as
ladies.
tall.
Thank you very much.
Being with us tonight.
I'm so
Thank you.
sorry.
No, no.
Okay, tell her I'm sorry.
I won't even
Yeah, I
talk.
believe we're
Just said you had
Mr. Chairman, while calls is on the way up,
Vital statistics,
Mr. Mayor,
that whole service already.
there may be, as we, in this, as we near the end of this preliminary thing, there probably needs to be, we need to get in front of the full commission instead of just this committee to make sure that the full commission would be kind of in line with us moving forward.
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate that Commissioner Reed take it in front. This is strictly an exploratory committee. We need to have full discussion by the full commission at the next full commission meeting that we're exploring this idea. If anybody has any questions or additions or, complaints, I think the full transparency, the more we have, the better.
I can just recall the Planning Commission, this is maybe stressed, but the Planning Commission, 3 years ago, completed a 3-year study on traffic sheds and a way to offset cost of building new roads or improving roads and those type of things. And the Planning Commission put the process together and took it before the full commission in a special call meeting, and the commission turned it down. And that's my concern, is that we don't want to spend a lot of time, a lot of efforts.
That's right.
So I think the full commission will need to be on board with, as we kind of go forward with that. It may even need to be a special call meeting to say,
Sure.
This is the preliminary findings. It's gone through public safety, but before we commit to do anything, we need the
Absolutely. And all these numbers need to be updated and crunched.
Okay, Mr. Gregory is not here tonight.
Not tonight. Hopefully he'll be back next
He
month.
called and told me that you would be here, and I told him there's no need for him to come back if he didn't want to.
Well, I take that as a compliment. Okay. August reports, intakes total 670, outcomes total 382, live release rate, dogs 91.5%, cats 89.1%, overall 89.2%. Calls received 2105, calls completed 2200. Mileage for the month 14,069. Fiscal year to date, total is 1,400. Total outcomes, 710 adoptions. Calls received, 4,086. Calls completed, 4,183. Mileage, total mileage, 27,573. And rabies exposure bite reports, there were a total of 30 bites. None of them were tested. There were a total of 10 other exposures. 2 of them were tested, 0 came back positive.
Where are you getting the report on the bites? People are calling you and say, hey, I got dog bit.
It comes from members of the public, it comes from the hospitals, urgent care clinics, police departments, things of that nature.
Well, I noticed on here on your bite reports, you hadn't had anybody bit out in Rockville, but we did have a rabid skunk, so that's good.
That's not the first time, I don't believe.
No, we have one every year. One shows up every year out there. Same skunk, I think. It's coming back. Any questions on the report from Paul's?
Motion to approve the report.
Second motion, Commissioner Pease, second Commissioner Phillips. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us here. All right, juvenile detention.
Good evening.
All right, gentlemen, you have in front of you the monthly report for August. Additionally, I have brought the information requested for our daily rate for fiscal year 17-18 and 18-19. And I'm sure that you will have questions about that, but if you have questions about any part of the rest of the report, please ask, and I will do my best to answer your questions.
Anything unusual about the monthly report?
I don't believe so.
Getting a lot from Sumner County?
We always get about that much a month from Sumner County.
Any questions? Okay, I'll accept the motion to approve the report. Make the motion. Mr. Gammon makes the motion. To have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Rather. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Any other questions?
The two add-ons that you've got at the end, could you once again refresh my memory as to what they are and what I'm looking at?
Are you talking about the
Those two
the
things.
daily rate? Commissioner Gurley, as well as, it may have been you that had asked for the daily rate, something recent. So I had asked Lisa Nolan in the finance department to do the daily rate. It's a time-consuming a figure, but she said that she can do 2 years just as easily as she can do one. So she went ahead and did the last two. So at 17-18, the cost to detain a juvenile is $235, and our daily rate that we would charge for that for out-of-county beds covers about 88% of that. Of course, we don't charge Rutherford County residents. The 18-19 is $249.33, and that covers about 70%.
What is our charge? 175?
175.
And
The thing is, you've got overhead built in regardless of how many
That's
inmates you have. So actually, you're getting a cost deferral by having these inmates from out of county.
Yes, sir.
Because you got a fixed cost. You may have more on feeding or a little more higher electrical bill if you've got, or water, whatever, if you've got more inmates. But as a rule,
The posts are the same. You have to man the post. And if there's one child in there, you still have to man the post. If there's 10 kids in there, you still have to man the post. So if we have, the thought process has been that if there's an empty bed and it's not needed by Rutherford County, put somebody in it that can pay for that bed.
right. Then the other option is, if we get to where we need beds, we don't have them, we can send those other people home. That's part of the contract that we've got with them if we need it ourselves. So.
That's correct.
Thank you.
If I may have heard incorrectly, the inmate day rate, I heard you say $235. It's $200.35.
That's right.
I may have misheard.
No, I think you.
17-18.
Right, for 17-18. I thought you said $235. I just wanted to
No,
clarify it's $200.35.
The daily rate for 17-18 is $200.35.
Okay, right, okay.
And then the 18-19 is $249.33.
Anything else?
Thank you for getting that information.
I'm sorry that there was a delay.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Correctional Work Center.
Evening.
I'll go ahead and start ours with the September 9th board meeting. I'm sure you all had a chance to read over that. I'll go next to the work release program. We started, I think I told you last month that we were starting with a new company. We did start with them, Millwood. And that's one of the ones that come in actually picking up the inmates and taking them to this work site, and that's going really well. And I think we had 4 or 5 working over there now, and they want several more. Of course, we try to take that a little slow working into that. Next is the yearly activity report. No real significant changes there. Our population is staying about the same. Monthly worker report. We'll take a look down there. The total combined savings of about $123,096 for this last month, using inmate labor. And then our state litter pickup for June and July is in there. Let's see. I just want to kind of give you an idea of the difference between June and July of this year and last year. You take a look at that for June. Looks like we are bringing in about $4,407 for that month. And if you go back to last year about the same time, I think it was right around $400 for the month. So that just gives you an idea of how much more work we're out there doing, picking up litter.
Is the big difference in state funds? Are there more state funds available to do that?
Well, it's actually there are, because they've done away with the contract that they had with an outside agency, and they've given it all to us now. Whereas
That was the interstate.
and as well as the interstate. So in the past, we've been limited as to what roads that we could actually pick up, and we've been given full access to it now. So
That bumped us, Director Coe, from what, 30 some odd thousand up to over 90,000?
Yes, sir.
Of revenue coming in from TDOT to help pick up I-24. We're anxious to get our new vans in. We've got 2 new vans ordered through Enterprise, so as soon as those are delivered, we're going to light those up, make sure that they're well lit on the interstate as they're picking up trash, because it's, of course, Jefferson Pike's probably more dangerous than the interstate.
Yes.
People going faster.
Definitely.
Top of the hill, right? 2-lane road, no place for them to go except a ditch.
And we've taken some, precautions too. We've ordered some extra signage, and of course, you were talking about the vans with the new lights, and we're doing some additional training. I think I talked about that last month too.
So the county benefits from litter pickup financially. The inmates benefit from litter pickup how?
Well, it's not really a benefit.
They're tired when they go.
It's a benefit to us that they're tired when they come back, but it does allow them to get out and work their sentence off. And the day that they do work, they get a credit for, so.
They get smell the roses.
That's true. And, you know, we usually don't have a whole hard time finding people that want to get outside and work. Especially when it comes time to that getting out a percentage earlier and going back home to their families, so.
If someone is sentenced to community service, that's what this is?
We don't really have that anymore. That went away a couple years ago.
It's news to me, but that's...
With the DUI, you talking about the DUI litter pickup?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been gone the state did away with that. That's when you don't see anybody out there with the DUI vest on anymore. But it's essentially the same thing, but they're housed in our facility and go out to work doing the same job all the time.
But it's volunteer, isn't it?
Well, it's volunteer if they want those credits.
Right.
So it's.
But to make them go out and do manual labor is what the state ruled against, that we can't make them go do hard.
And that was on the community service part mostly. Used to, you know, judge could sentence someone to do community service for DUI, 40 hours going out and picking up garbage on the side of the road, and they did away with that. So this is our way of picking up that load.
Okay.
And that is the report for this month, and then I have an amendment also, I think should be in there.
Okay, we'll approve your report first.
Motion to approve the report.
Commissioner P moves to approve the report. Have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Gurley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, I believe we've got an amendment, and I think there's an award in there too, or something?
There is. That's what it. We were contacted over the weekend that the grant that we applied for back in March of this year. We actually applied for it last year and didn't get it, and we reapplied again in March, and we were notified over the weekend that we did receive that grant. So that'll be $617,000 roughly over the next 3 years.
I signed it this morning, so congratulations.
Good, thank you. We worked hard on it. We worked hard on putting that narrative together, and it's going to be a good program. It'll be mostly working with incarcerated parents and their underage children.
$617,748.
Should have a press release going out in the morning on that for you.
Oh, thank you.
We have a new PIO.
So you have
MPO.
You have a budget amendment request before you.
Do we send that grant to budget?
Master.
This is a change in the budget. It's a budget amendment request is what this is.
Oh, no, I was talking about this grant.
Oh, the grant?
That he just talked about. Does that need to go to budget?
I believe it does.
Yeah, I think all that.
Yeah, and I mean, this thing starts October 1st, and they just
Yeah.
notified us over the weekend, so that's the reason I brought it to you tonight.
Well, that's what that award is. That's what this is.
Is that what the budget amendment is on? Oh, okay. Okay.
Second Chance Act, Tristan, okay.
This budget amendment is just grant money that we're receiving?
That we're receiving.
And you're putting it in, what particular line items are you putting it in?
We'll have to look at that. I'm not sure
I think
what
Lisa
the
will create a line.
other contracted service. So. And the match that we have is a 25% in kind for staff and then classroom space. So.
And the entire commission approved that, didn't we? Or gave you the
Yes, sir.
authority to apply for that grant?
For the application.
For the application. So, do I hear a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Garland?
Submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Rather. Call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes. Okay, sir.
That's all I have.
Well, Thank you. Brought us some good news. That's good.
I like good news. I like it. I did not put, of course, this is.
All right, Sheriff.
But I can see. Is it okay? Thank you.
Thanks.
Sheriff comes in at the last point tonight. And next month, he gets to work his way up to first place, doesn't he?
First place next month.
Hallelujah.
Hope we don't do something to go bounce the ball again.
Thank you.
Okay, sir.
What are we doing first? I actually did some, because I always tell y'all we don't ever do anything about our reports. Well, I've sent y'all something different. If y'all looked at it or not. But, so I want to do this, the grant first, if you don't mind. And then
Okay.
we'll talk about the other. The state's wanting to give us $20,000. And it's for Sergeant Rogers to be a coordinator, network coordinator with the THSO office. That will pay his overtime. It will pay for 2 schools and 3 laser radars. So that's what that money will, we've got a budget that Lisa will get. And that money would be coming from THSO if y'all will allow me to process it and accept it.
Is there any type of budget amendment in here? I don't see it.
No, sir, I can't do that.
I was trying to find it. I can't find it.
Yeah. Right now, Reba just wanted me to get y'all's approval to say we can do it. We have to, we're behind. They called us late. So we're already moving about a month
So we're just
behind.
approving to give you permission
Permission to get it. That's Reba just wanted me to get permission.
Oh, to
So we-
apply for it?
Right.
I thought you said you'd already got it.
Well, we have. They've accepted
We've
him,
got to
but
go through the motion to get your
It's-
approval to say, yes,
Yes.
bring it on.
Are we approving processing and accepting?
Okay, to have a motion to accept the grant,
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Phillips makes the motion, Commissioner Gurley seconds.
Can you tell us what it is again? $20,000 for what?
we have, in Middle Tennessee, there's 5 networks of law enforcement that come together and help THSO coordinate events like what y'all read in the paper with the city, you know, checking cell phones, doing
checking,
safety, DUI enforcements.
Speeding enforcement.
They get together, coordinate those events, and then bring them back to the counties where they are going to coordinate with Murfreesboro, Laverne, Smyrna. So he would represent Rutherford County for us in that network.
Okay, have a motion made and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, we're just giving them permission to do so. All right, what do you have next?
Well, I wanted to add, what I've added, I didn't get this to y'all today. I've already put one in yours, but please don't pay attention to the top numbers. But I'm
Pay no
gonna
attention
start.
to the man behind.
Let me have them back.
There'll be 2 there. Yeah, everybody got one.
But I wanted to start adding things like this to your report so you actually know who's in jail, okay? And that's a great breakdown. Like today, we had 938 inmates, okay? And it breaks it down to males, it breaks it down to females, race, and you can see the percentages. You can also, what I find interesting in this is what age group we have. And we have a serious issues with our 26 to 40, well, 26 to 50 really.
26 to 50.
If you can see, and the majority of that being your 30 or your 31 to 35 age group. I don't know what happened 20-something years ago or whatever, but that's what I take from this, what happened, that we have so many of this one age group in our jail. And then you break it on down to what our average age of all our inmates are, and it's 34. And then to the right, some of these numbers are not right on the total bond and all the charges, so we're working on our computer program for that. But we do break it down to homeless. You have your sex offenders, how many we have, military service, and then we have 247 trustees. And you can see our pretrial, which is 468, and total female would be 115. So the rest of that 900 belongs to state.
Did we not used to get this?
Yeah.
I used to get this.
We changed programs.
Changed programs.
And Psalms was going out.
The Psalms went upside down anyway.
Right.
So for a number of years, you couldn't get anything. It was so messed up. I mean, you couldn't upgrade it.
Because I remember I used to get this.
Yeah, I mean, it's
pretty interesting.
It's good. I mean, this is nice.
Yeah.
Bring us back. I mean,
We're getting good data.
Yeah.
Except for the
watch what we
bonds and
get.
things like that. But the numbers and incarcerated is good data. We're finally getting some good
We're
data.
working on it every day on that program. So I'll try to get it more organized, but right now it's about the best I can do.
I like this.
And then I gave y'all a monthly personnel report. Basically, it's open positions, employees who've left, and personnel that are out of service due to OJIs, FMLA, or military. And see, July and August. Now, we have, next month, I'll give you a report. A lot of these open positions will be covered because we've hired and gone in, okay? I know some of y'all ask me about extraditions because they usually end up having to come back for money, because you just don't know. It's a hard thing. These are all my extraditions since July of last year and the cost. And then I gave you pending extraditions, which right now, as of this morning, is 26. And all we are waiting for with that is the courts, to make their determination if they can have trial there, they're coming back to us, or anything like that.
Are you contracting most of those out on extraditions?
Yes, and inmate services went out of business, so PTS is the only people in town that are setting their price.
That's it.
If anybody wants to start a
If you want to
business.
start a business, it'd be a good one.
The less expensive place to go is Alabama, isn't it?
Yes.
We can do that on one day,
Closer.
most of the time, unless we go to prison down there, and then it's a night trip.
It's amazing to know, though, that we bring people from New York, California, Colorado.
I flew to Seattle twice myself, back in the day. Some of these you couldn't beg anybody to go. That's one reason I went to the private services.
I've also included the medical service statistics for y'all, and if that really take you back, when you read through that, you'll know every day what those people are. This tells you everything. But you have your suicide statuses, you have your detox, your blood alcohol, death in custody, which fortunately has been 0.
I see mental health hadn't got any better.
Well, I think I knew it, but until I saw the numbers, but almost 90% of our females are on some type of psych med.
That was my question when I looked at this sheet you gave us, is did you have a mental breakout on that?
It's right,
You got
it's right here.
It's right here.
And close to 50% of my males on psych meds. Now, that's something we're responsible for, getting to that.
The other thing that really jumps out to me and bothers me is, back again on this sheet, is on your male population, total whites and the total black males per, you do that percentage of population.
It's in the percentage, the race percentages are onto the side.
I mean, the black incarceration is
Low.
It's total incarceration of white is 56%, 34% black, and then 9.5% of the other Asian, Hispanic.
Your jail population, if your police, your law enforcement, and judges, and people are doing this right thing, your population should mirror what your county population is.
That's where I was
And that
going.
mirrors Rutherford County on our race. So, you know, that can usually tell you something if we're just like our population. Well, anyway, I'll find some more stuff for you, but I want to make it a little more interesting for y'all.
I appreciate it. Any questions on this, or any questions concerning the budget report that's in here?
Good information.
Move to approve the report.
Motion made to approve the report. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Peete. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Sheriff, before you leave. Yes. We talked in our OSHA report a little bit earlier, and if there is some kind of a, I think Commissioner Peete even called it an assault going on, shouldn't our SROs be involved in something like that?
If it's an assault, they are involved in it. If it rises to the criminal level, of course, the student or teacher, whichever way it goes, if it's an assault, they're arrested.
What I heard,
and I don't know
I know
what he's quoting, because
I know, but
if I've got somebody in the parking lot that gets run, and one of my deputies gets run over by a truck, and it isn't on the job.
Yeah.
Not his fault. So.
This thing appeared to be struck by something, and Dan led us to believe that it was an object that was thrown by a student to something. So
yeah, I don't know what and like I said, if it rises to the level it's a criminal act, then they're arrested.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm getting at is that if there should be some type of an accident investigation that goes on, and if it reaches that point, shouldn't the SRO be involved in it? And I guess that's the type of questions that we need to ask the school board tomorrow night at the Health and Ed meeting.
If it's a school board situation, then we do not interject ourselves in a school function. Now, if it's a situation where a student assaults somebody, or another student, or teacher, or administrator, or teacher, the student, whatever, then we are involved in that. And that's reported to us. If we're not physically present when it happens, then it's reported to us by administration. Absent of a criminal act, then it's up to the school. We don't interject ourselves into a civil process.
So what we need to do is ask the school board, when they make their report tomorrow night, what this really was, and was the SROs involved in part of that accident?
They would be in a better position, and I think David Krim, because his name did come up. Of course, David is a safety coordinator for the schools. And
thank you.
Because a lot of what he's talking about on OJI, we don't see it, so I'm not familiar with what he's.
Show us either.
One of them was some of those corporal punishment, suspend them or expel, whatever.
Yeah, and that's something that we would not be involved in if it's that type of situation.
And special needs is a whole other animal.
That's another,
Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Is there other business?
Yes, sir. I got one other thing. I'm going to ask the sheriff to sit here with me just for a second. At the last 911 board, which the sheriff is on that board, I as well, the motion was made by Chief Mark Fuchs from the Burstburg Fire Department. And of course, the 911 board is made up of fire chiefs and police chiefs from throughout the whole county. But the motion was made to name the 911 building out on Fortress in the name of John Hood, who has been the treasurer for E911 since its inception, I believe. And so that recommendation, city council will have to run that through city council as well, but I was asked to bring it on behalf of the 911 board to name the building John Hood, because I think both city and county dollars went in to build that building jointly.
What's it called now?
911 Center.
911 Center.
What would it be called if it were named after?
John Hood 911 Center.
911 Center. Yeah. John's 80.
Still very active.
Still very active at 82, but
I think you could name it after anyone better.
The board would like to honor him while he's still serving in that capacity.
He's been a heart and soul.
Do you need anything from us?
Just a recommendation, and we send it on to the full commission.
I'd like to make that recommendation.
I'll second that.
There's the motion, and there's the second. Commissioner P makes the motion, Commissioner Gurley seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Thank you, sir. Yeah, good, thank you.
Anything else? If not, we're adjourned.